My name is Riley, and the day I was supposed to walk across that stage and collect my engineering degree, my father handed me a manila envelope instead of a hug. Inside were disownment papers, legal documents declaring I was no longer part of the Chen family. My mother wouldn't even look at me. My younger brother Marcus smirked from behind them, his arm draped around his fiancée, while hundreds of families around us celebrated with flowers and tears of joy. But my story doesn't end there. It ends with my name being called from that same stage 2 hours later by the CEO of TechCore Industries, while my parents stood frozen in the crowd, realizing exactly what they'd just thrown away. Have you ever been disowned by the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally? Let me back up, because you need to understand how I got here. I grew up in a traditional family where success meant one thing: becoming a doctor or a lawyer, preferably both if you were ambitious enough. My parents immigrated from Taiwan when I was 3, and they built their comfortable life through a small chain of restaurants. Every dinner conversation was about legacy, reputation, and the family name. My brother Marcus, younger by 3 years, was the golden child, charismatic, outgoing, destined for law school according to my parents' grand plan. I was the disappointment from the start. Quiet, analytical, obsessed with taking things apart and putting them back together. I spent my childhood with circuit boards and code instead of debate team and mock trials. When I told them at 16 that I wanted to study engineering, my father actually laughed. Not a warm laugh, a cold, dismissive sound that I can still hear echoing in my chest. Engineering? That's for white kids with no family expectations. You'll be a doctor, and that's final. But I wasn't built to follow scripts written by other people. I applied to engineering programs in secret, took out student loans my parents didn't know about, and worked 3 part-time jobs to cover what financial aid wouldn't. I moved out at 18 when they threatened to withhold college money if I didn't choose pre-med. It destroyed our relationship, but I kept hoping that one day when they saw what I could accomplish, they'd understand. I kept hoping they'd be proud. For 5 years, I lived in a cramped studio apartment that smelled like the Indian restaurant downstairs, survived on ramen and ambition, and poured everything I had into my studies. I graduated top of my class with a focus on sustainable energy systems. More importantly, during my junior year, I developed an algorithm that could optimize solar panel efficiency by 23%, a breakthrough that caught the attention of several major tech companies. I patented it with the help of a professor who believed in me more than my own parents ever did. TechCore Industries offered me a position 6 months before graduation. Not just any position, a junior lead engineer role with a signing bonus that made me dizzy. But there was more. They wanted to license my algorithm and bring me on to help develop it at scale. The CEO, Catherine Morrison, personally called me. She told me I reminded her of herself at my age, hungry, brilliant, and unafraid to challenge conventional thinking. I signed the contract, but kept it quiet, wanting to surprise my family at graduation, wanting, pathetically, to win their approval at last. I reached out to my parents a month before the ceremony. It was my mother who answered, her voice cold and formal like I was a telemarketer. I told her about graduation, about how I wanted them there. There was a long pause, and then she said, "Your father and I will discuss it." That was it. No congratulations, no pride, just bureaucratic courtesy. But they showed up, and in my naive hope, I thought that meant something. The graduation was held at the city's largest convention center. Thousands of graduates, an ocean of black caps and gowns. I spotted my family in the crowd during the opening remarks. My parents dressed formally, Marcus in a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent, his fiancée Jessica clinging to his arm like a designer accessory. I waved. Marcus whispered something to Jessica, and they both laughed. My mother's face remained stone. During the break before the ceremony officially began, my father approached me in the corridor outside the main hall. My mother and Marcus flanked him like security detail. I smiled, thinking maybe he wanted to take a photo. Maybe tell me he was wrong about engineering. Instead, he held out that manila envelope. "What's this?" I asked, though my hands were already shaking as I took it. "Open it," he said flatly. Inside were legal documents, official and cold, disownment papers, a formal declaration that I was no longer part of the family, no longer entitled to any inheritance, no longer carrying the Chen name in any legal capacity. There were lines for my signature at the bottom. I looked up at him, searching for some sign this was a test, a cruel joke. "Dad, what?" "You chose your path 5 years ago," he interrupted. "You rejected this family, our culture, our plans for you. We gave you chances to come back, to fix this. You refused. Marcus is getting married next year. He starts law school in the fall. He represents this family now. You're an embarrassment we can't afford." My mother finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "We have friends here, family friends whose children went to medical school. They ask about you, and we have to lie or admit our daughter threw away every opportunity we gave her for some trade work." "Trade work?" The words came out hollow. "I'm an engineer. I graduated top of my class." "You're a disgrace," Marcus cut in, and there was something gleeful in his voice. "Face it, Riley. You were always the weird one, always fighting against what you should have been. Mom and Dad are done carrying that burden. Sign the papers." Jessica, who I'd met exactly twice before, giggled. Actually, giggled. "It's better this way," she said, adjusting her designer sunglasses. "Family pictures will look so much better at the wedding without, well, you know." I stood there in that fluorescent lit corridor, in my graduation gown, holding legal papers that erased my existence from my family's story. People walked past us, other families, laughing and taking photos. No one noticed the quiet destruction happening in the corner. That's the thing about betrayal. It's often invisible to everyone except the person being betrayed. "I'm not signing these," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Then we'll contest them in court," my father replied. "But either way, you're not our daughter anymore. We're done. We came today to close this chapter officially." They walked away, just turned and left me standing there with unsigned disownment papers in my hand and a heart that felt like it had been fed through a paper shredder. I watched them return to their seats in the auditorium. Marcus put his arm around my mother, playing the devoted son. My father adjusted his tie, his face expressionless. I almost left. I almost walked out of that convention center and never looked back. But then I thought about everything I'd survived to get here. The lonely nights, the doubt, the exhaustion. I thought about Professor Kim, who'd stayed late dozens of times to help me perfect my algorithm. I thought about Catherine Morrison's voice on the phone saying, "You're going to change the world, Riley." I thought about the little girl I used to be, taking apart radios and dreaming of creating something that mattered. So I folded those papers, put them in my bag, and walked back into that auditorium. I took my seat with the other engineering graduates. And I waited. The ceremony proceeded through speeches and department recognitions. My parents sat rigid in their seats, ready to leave the moment it was acceptable. Marcus kept checking his phone, clearly bored. Then came the special recognition segment, the part where major donors and industry partners were acknowledged, where exceptional students received additional honors. The Dean of Engineering took the podium, adjusting his microphone. Before we proceed with conferring degrees, we have a special guest. TechCore Industries has been a proud partner of our engineering program for over a decade. This year, they've chosen to do something unprecedented. I'd like to welcome CEO Catherine Morrison to the stage. My heart started pounding. This wasn't in the program. Catherine Morrison walked onto that stage like she owned it, which, in many ways, she did. She was in her 50s, elegant, in a sharp navy suit, with the kind of presence that made you sit up straighter without realizing it. She took the microphone with the comfort of someone who'd given 1,000 speeches. "Thank you, Dean Peters. I'm not here to give a long speech. Your graduates have sat through enough of those today. Polite laughter from the crowd. I'm here because 15 years ago, I sat where these graduates are sitting. I was a woman in tech when that meant something very different than it does now. I was told I didn't belong, that I should find a more suitable career. But I didn't listen. And today, TechCore Industries employs over 50,000 people and leads the world in sustainable energy solutions. She paused, letting that sink in. Every year, I look for that same fire in new graduates. Someone who doesn't just want a job, but who wants to solve problems that matter. This year, I found that person. Riley Chen developed an algorithm during her junior year that optimizes solar panel efficiency by 23%. For context, the previous record improvement was 6%, achieved by a team of senior researchers over 3 years. Riley did it alone in a campus lab, while working 3 jobs to pay for school. The world narrowed to a tunnel. I heard my name, my full name, echoing through speakers across that massive space. Catherine Morrison was talking about me, about my work. Riley's algorithm could change how we approach renewable energy. It could make solar power accessible to millions of people currently priced out of the market. It could reduce our carbon footprint by measurable percentages. And she's 22 years old. Catherine smiled. Riley Chen, would you please come to the stage? I stood, my legs somehow working despite feeling like water. The walk to that stage felt like it took hours and no time at all. When I reached Catherine, she shook my hand firmly and handed me a plaque. But more than that, she handed me a microphone. Say a few words, she whispered, then stepped aside. I looked out at the crowd, thousands of people, cameras flashing, and in the middle section I found my family. My father's face had gone pale. My mother's hand was frozen halfway to her mouth. Marcus had dropped his phone. Thank you, I started, my voice cracking slightly. I don't have a prepared speech. I didn't know this was happening, but I want to say something about persistence. I gripped the plaque tighter. 5 years ago, I chose a path that some people thought was wrong. I was told I was throwing away my future, disappointing my family, choosing selfishness over duty. I was told engineering was beneath me. Not good enough, not respectable enough. I could see my father slowly standing up as if preparing to leave, but the people around him were watching, clapping. He couldn't leave without causing a scene. I worked 3 jobs while finishing this degree. I lived in a 400-square-foot apartment. There were nights I wasn't sure I'd make it, but I had professors who believed in me, friends who supported me, and a dream that wouldn't die no matter how many people told me it should. My voice grew stronger. This algorithm everyone's excited about? I developed it during finals week of junior year, running on 4 hours of sleep and convenience store coffee. I did it because I believe in sustainable energy, in making the world better, in proving that your background doesn't determine your future. Catherine nodded approvingly beside me. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. In a few minutes, I'm officially graduating, and on Monday, I start work at TechCore Industries as a junior lead engineer with a project team of 12 people. People who will work under my direction to develop this algorithm into something that can change lives. I paused, and maybe it was petty, but I looked right at my family. To everyone who supported me, thank you. And to everyone who told me I wasn't good enough or that I chose wrong, I hope watching this brings you some clarity. The applause was thunderous. Catherine Morrison hugged me, actually hugged me, and whispered, "Perfect. Absolutely perfect." I walked back to my seat, and this time when I passed rows of people, they were reaching out to shake my hand, to congratulate me. Professors I'd had 3 years ago were wiping tears. Professor Kim gave me a thumbs up, mouthing, "I'm so proud of you." When I reached my row, the guy next to me, someone I barely knew from thermodynamics class, leaned over and whispered, "Holy shit, that was legendary." The ceremony continued, but I barely heard the rest. When my name was called again to receive my actual degree, the applause was noticeably louder than for other graduates. People knew who I was now. The dean shook my hand extra long, said something about alumni networks and keeping in touch. I walked back across that stage feeling like I was floating. After the ceremony ended, I stood outside in the plaza where families were taking photos and celebrating. I saw my parents approaching from a distance. For a moment, a stupid, hopeful moment, I thought maybe they were coming to apologize, to say they were wrong. My father got there first, and his face was a mess of emotions I couldn't read. "Riley, we need to talk." "Do we?" I kept my voice neutral. My mother spoke rapidly, her composure cracking. "We didn't know about the job, about the CEO. You never told us." "I tried to tell you a month ago when I invited you here. You said you'd discuss it like I was requesting permission to exist." I pulled the manila envelope from my bag. "These are still unsigned." Marcus and Jessica hung back, no longer laughing. Marcus looked like he'd been slapped. "Let's not be hasty," my father said, and there was something in his voice I'd never heard before. Uncertainty. "Perhaps we were too harsh. Family should support family, and clearly you've done well." "Clearly I've done well?" I repeated. 2 hours ago I was a disgrace, trade work, an embarrassment. Now I'm worth talking to because a CEO said my name and there were cameras? "Riley, don't be dramatic," my mother tried. "We always wanted success for you." "No, you wanted obedience. You wanted me to follow your script, live your dream. When I chose my own path, I stopped existing for you." I held up the envelope. "You brought legal papers to my graduation to disown me. You did that knowing I'd graduated top of my class. You did it not caring what I'd accomplished, because it wasn't what you wanted me to accomplish." "We made a mistake," my father said, and those words cost him something. He wasn't a man who admitted mistakes easily. "We should have been more open-minded. We can fix this." "Fix what? The fact that you don't actually love me? That you love the idea of a daughter who obeys, but not the real person I am?" I shook my head. "I don't need your approval anymore. I needed it 5 years ago when I was terrified and alone. I needed it 3 years ago when I was developing my algorithm in a campus lab at midnight, because it was the only time it was free. I needed it this morning when I woke up hoping maybe, finally, you'd be proud of me." "We are proud," my mother whispered. "No, you're embarrassed. You're standing here because your friends saw what happened. Because people know your daughter just got recognized by one of the most powerful tech CEOs in the country, and you can't explain why you were about to disown her. You're here for reputation, not for me." Jessica, emboldened by whatever delusional confidence she possessed, spoke up. "You're being really ungrateful. Your parents came all this way." "Jessica, with all due respect, you've been dating my brother for 6 months. You don't get a vote in my family dynamics." I turned back to my parents. "I've spent 5 years trying to earn your love. I'm done. If you want a relationship with me, you know where to find me, but it won't be on your terms anymore." I started walking away. "Riley, wait!" Marcus called out, and there was something desperate in his voice. "Come on, don't be like this. Family is family." I stopped, turned back. "You called me a disgrace and a burden. You laughed when Dad handed me those papers. You've spent 5 years acting like I was an embarrassment. But now, suddenly family matters?" He had nothing to say to that. "I hope law school goes well," I said quietly. "I really do. I hope you become everything they want you to be, and I hope it makes you happy. But I'm not going to stand here and pretend everything's fine, because it's convenient now." I walked away from them for the second time that day. This time, no one followed. The weeks that followed were strange and surreal. I moved out of my tiny apartment into a better place closer to TechCore's headquarters. The signing bonus meant I could afford furniture that wasn't secondhand, could eat meals I didn't have to cook on a hot plate. My team at TechCore welcomed me warmly. Some were skeptical at first about a 22-year-old in a leadership role, but Catherine made it clear I'd earned my position. And more importantly, I proved it in the work. Professor Kim took me to coffee and admitted he'd been the one to reach out to Catherine Morrison about my algorithm. She asked me if I had any students doing exceptional work, he said. I told her about you, about your circumstances. She did the rest. I cried in that coffee shop. Ugly, grateful tears. Because he'd believed in me when I barely believed in myself. My parents tried calling, text messages at first, then voicemails. My father's were formal, talking about discussing the situation like adults. My mother's were more emotional, saying she missed me, that they could work through this. Marcus sent one text that said, "Dad's been in a bad mood for weeks. Can you just call them?" I didn't respond. Not out of spite, but because I didn't know what to say. What do you say to people who tried to legally erase you from their lives until it became inconvenient? 3 months into my job at TechCore, my algorithm went into beta testing at a solar farm in Nevada. The results exceeded even our optimistic projections. Catherine called me into her office, this massive space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, and told me they were fast-tracking full implementation. She also told me I was getting a promotion and a project named after me, the Chen Initiative for Sustainable Energy. "Your parents still not talking to you?" she asked, because somehow she knew. "They're trying. I'm not ready." "Good. Don't be ready until you actually are. Success shouldn't require you to forgive people who hurt you." She leaned back in her chair. "My parents thought I should be a teacher, said business was too aggressive for women. They didn't speak to me for 8 years. 8 years, Riley. They came back when I made my first million, suddenly proud of my choices. I let them back in eventually, but on my terms. Some relationships can be rebuilt, but only if both sides are willing to do the work." "Did you ever stop wanting their approval?" "No," she said honestly, "but I stopped needing it. There's a difference." That evening, I was featured in a tech industry publication, Young Innovators Reshaping Energy Solutions. There was a photo of me in the lab, a 2-page spread about my algorithm, quotes from Catherine about the future of sustainable tech. My phone exploded with congratulatory messages, friends from college, professors, even people I barely knew. And my father called. I stared at his name on my screen for 3 rings before answering. "Hello? Riley?" His voice was different, quieter. "I saw the article. Your mother showed me. It's impressive." "Thank you. We'd like to see you. Talk properly. Can we take you to dinner?" I looked around my apartment, my nice apartment with real furniture and art on the walls. I looked at the framed photo on my desk from graduation day, me and Professor Kim and Catherine Morrison all smiling. I looked at the person I'd become without their approval. "I don't know, Dad. Please, we made mistakes. Let us try to fix them." Do you actually want to fix them? Or do you want to be able to tell people you're on good terms with the daughter featured in industry magazines? There was a long silence. Then, to my surprise, he said, "Both. I won't lie to you. Seeing you succeed publicly, it made us realize what we'd lost. But Riley, we also realized we don't know you. We don't know who you've become. Your mother cries about it. She's been crying for weeks." Something in me softened, just slightly. "I'm not the daughter you wanted. No, you're better, you're yourself, and we should have celebrated that instead of trying to force you into a shape that didn't fit." "Do you actually believe that, or are you saying what you think I want to hear?" Another pause. "I'm saying it because watching you on that stage, seeing your name in that article, it hit me that I don't know what your favorite food is anymore. I don't know where you live or what you do on weekends. I don't know if you're happy. I traded knowing my daughter for maintaining my pride, and that was the worst deal I've ever made." My eyes burned with tears. "You really hurt me, all of you." "I know, I'm sorry. Let us try to make it right." We met for dinner a week later at a neutral restaurant. Nothing fancy, My parents arrived early, looking nervous in a way I'd never seen them. Marcus came too, subdued, no fiancé in sight. It was awkward at first. Painful small talk, loaded silences. Then my mother asked about my apartment, and I showed her photos on my phone. She asked about my team at work, and I found myself talking about the project, about sustainable energy, about things I was passionate about. My father listened, really listened, asking questions that showed he was trying to understand my world instead of judging it. Marcus apologized halfway through the meal, looking at his plate as he spoke. I was a jerk at graduation. Before that, too. I think I was jealous, honestly. You had the guts to go your own way, and I've been following the script so carefully. I forgot to think about whether it's what I actually want. Are you saying you don't want to be a lawyer? I'm saying I don't know, but watching you, seeing you actually happy doing what you love, it made me think. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't instant healing, but it was a start. Over the following months, we rebuilt something. Not what we had before, but something new and more honest. My mother learned to ask about my work without comparing it to medicine. My father admitted he didn't understand engineering, but was trying to educate himself. Marcus deferred law school for a year to figure out what he actually wanted. Jessica, predictably, broke up with him when he wasn't the sure thing lawyer anymore. The Chen Initiative launched officially a year after graduation. We cut the ribbon at a solar farm in Arizona that would power 15,000 homes. My parents came to the ceremony. My mother cried happy tears this time. My father told everyone in earshot that his daughter had designed the technology making it possible. It was weird hearing him brag about me, but good weird. Like watching someone learn a language they'd refused to speak for years. Catherine Morrison stood next to me during the speeches, and at one point, she leaned over and whispered, "You did it. You changed the world and won your family back. That's rare." "I didn't win them back," I corrected gently. "We're building something new. The old relationship died when they handed me those papers. This is different. Better? Honest, which is better?" That evening, my parents took me to dinner to celebrate. Just the three of us. Marcus was on a soul-searching trip in Colorado. My father handed me an envelope, and my heart stopped for a moment before I realized it was different from the one at graduation. Inside was a card and a check. Not a huge amount, but significant. The card read, "For your first house, we know you don't need our money, but we want to contribute to your future. We're proud of you. We're sorry it took us so long to say it," I cried. Right there in the restaurant, I cried like the girl I used to be who just wanted her parents to love her as she was. "You don't have to accept it," my mother said quickly, worried. "It's not about the money," I managed. "It's about what it means." My father reached across the table, squeezed my hand awkwardly. "You were right at graduation. We wanted obedience, not a daughter. We're trying to do better. It's hard, unlearning everything we thought was important. But you're worth the effort." 2 years after graduation, I bought a house with that money as a down payment. Small, perfect, with a yard where I could install solar panels using my own algorithm. My parents helped me move in. My father assembled furniture without being asked. My mother planted flowers in the garden. Marcus, who decided to go into environmental advocacy instead of law, painted the spare bedroom. We took a photo that day, all of us on the front porch, tired and paint splattered and happy. My mother posted it on Facebook with the caption, "So proud of our brilliant daughter and her beautiful new home." I stared at that post for a long time. Not because I needed the validation anymore, but because it represented a journey, mine and theirs. They'd learned to be proud of me for who I was, not who they wanted me to be. And I'd learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, but it can mean building something new from broken pieces. The disownment papers are still in my desk drawer. I never signed them, never threw them away. They remind me of who I was that day. Devastated, rejected, but strong enough to walk back into that auditorium anyway. They remind me that the person who matters most has to be proud of you is yourself. Catherine Morrison told me once that success is the best revenge. But I disagree. The best revenge is becoming so completely yourself that the people who rejected you realize they missed out on knowing someone extraordinary. The best revenge is building a life so fulfilling that their approval becomes optional, appreciated if given, but not necessary for your happiness. My name is Riley Chen. I'm 24 years old. I lead a team of engineers developing sustainable energy solutions that will outlive all of us. I have parents who are learning to love me as I am. I have work that matters and a life I built with my own hands. And sometimes when I'm standing in my living room with the lights powered by panels running my algorithm, I think about that day at graduation. I think about the girl who almost walked away, who almost let their rejection define her. I'm grateful she stayed. I'm grateful she fought. Because the truth is, you can't disown someone who never needed to own your approval in the first place. And real family isn't who you're born to. It's who chooses to know you and love you exactly as you are.